As we bless all the prayers in the prayer box, you are invited to mentally add your prayers, those concerns on your heart and mind. All prayer requests are prayed with by our prayer chaplains and continue to be prayed for at Unity Village, Silent Unity, for 30 days. We affirm and know that all the answers and solutions are now moving into form and manifestation. Please join me now in meditation. Taking those nice, deep, intentional, full breaths, breathing in, right through the heart center, closing our eyes and becoming comfortable in our chairs. Breathe deeply. Nice long inhales and complete full exhales. Moving into our personal sacred space. We keep our hearts and minds open. Being fully present to our senses. Following the breath. Connecting with the all that is. We sense the pulsing, swirling energy at the core of our being, touching the essence of life itself. Feeling our oneness with Mother Earth and the Holy Mystery. Basking with each breath in the glow of the light within. We acknowledge all past experiences that have molded our lives and brought us to this moment. We acknowledge the year just behind us with gratitude for all of it. And we stand on the cusp of a new calendar year. Now please make these words of affirmation your own. I look ahead to a fresh new year, carrying a rekindling hope and wonder brought forth through the message and experience of the Christmas season. I look forward to the gift of a new day for me and promise of prosperity in the new year. I feel anew the desires of my heart. I position myself to move in a new direction on the voyage of self-discovery. I open my mind to seeds of new ideas inside the winds of change. I find courage to launch a newly charted course that leads me ever closer to expression of my fullest, most authentic self. I set sail on a new day inside the very breath I take this moment. And so it is.
can see it, then you can do it. If you just believe it, there's nothing to it. I used to think that I could not go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. And I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I think about it every night and day. See, I believe it's every night and day. And on the everlasting arms, and life is must go on. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. And I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. 'Cause I believe in you. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. I spread my wings and fly away. And I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I can fly. I can fly. I can fly. If I just spread my wings, oh, I can fly. I can fly. I can fly. And I can fly, you can fly, we can fly. Oh yeah. And I can fly, you can fly, we can fly. I can fly, I can fly, I can fly. I believe I can fly.
Well, there's a resolution. Believe we can fly, right? Well, it's an interesting time of year. We've not quite hit the first of the year. We're through with the Christmas holidays, and so now's the time to start thinking about those resolutions, okay? You know, what we are going to resolve and what changes we are going to make. Resolution is about that. It's something that we resolve to do. It's when we make an effort, we change our behavior, we move into something very specific. It's deciding firmly on a course of action. So what am I going to do? What am I resolved to do? But you know about resolutions, right? How long do they last? We have many ideas, right? How often do we put them into practice? What do we do? You know, sometimes the only thing that's really stable in our lives is the fact that we can change. And yet, we are resistant to change. There's a lot of resistance to change. The reason why is because in order to change, you have to let go of something. I know a lot of people will say, well, yes, I really want to change and do this, 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 and this, but I don't want to let go of that. So sometimes we don't want to let go of that which we need to let go in order to move into a change. We have big goals and we have big resolutions. We can oftentimes also be fairly overwhelmed with what is coming forward. You know, so a lot of times we make multiple resolutions. Do you ever just do one? Sometimes? Okay. If we do many, it's difficult then to change because in part we get overwhelmed with all the resolutions that we have to make. So let's say you want to lose weight, quit smoking, exercise, all at once. Probably a little more difficult than if you just took one at a time. Yeah. So one of the things we have to look at is be sure that we don't overwhelm ourselves when we do these resolutions. And I think the other thing that we look for when we do these resolutions is the quick fix. Okay? I want it done right now. I want to finish it right now, or I want it to happen right now, or whatever. We're not willing to put in the time and the effort and the consistency and the persistence and the daily efforts that are required in order to bring a resolution into form. I think I like to call it the Clark Kent syndrome. You want to just wish into a phone booth and all of a sudden become the superhuman who can do it all, just like that. Okay? So we need to kind of look at those things as we begin to work on our resolutions. Now, I have several suggestions to help you with this, of course. One, just make one. One resolution. Not 10, not 20, just one. Start with one. Now I said, well, which one? I don't care. Pick one. Okay, you might have several. Now, a resolution is different than a goal. You can set your goals for the year. For 2014, here's my list of goals. And I suggest that you do that. I think goal setting is very powerful. It's like creating a vision board for yourself, only in words. So when you set your goals, you're setting yourself, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to accomplish, and so on. A resolution is when you are going to really be resolved to take a definite, firm direction in your behavior. Okay, so pick one thing and begin to work with it. Just one. If you make 10 of them and you try to change your entire life, what happens? Well, you get overwhelmed, or this is too much, or I can't do it, or none of this is working, da, 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 you know, all those things. So start with just one. Number 2, do one thing differently related to that resolution. Just one small thing differently. A simple, consistent way in which you can change. Progressive, incremental changes are subtle because they change things in a bigger way. It's the little things that can make the greatest difference in our lives. How was Rome built? Brick by brick. Okay? Now, yes, they had a vision. They knew what they wanted to do, and we will work on that. Of course, we need to have a vision. We know what our goals are. We know where we're going, but what we resolve to do is to do this, to put a brick every day, brick by brick. If you want to write a book, start with a word, and then a sentence, and then a paragraph, and then a chapter. And you build it little by little by little. Too often with our resolutions, we want to do everything all at one time. And so the affirmation is, today I'm going to do one small thing differently. Just one small thing. Change one thing, and you'd be amazed what begins to change in your life. It's a story about a lady they called the African Violet Queen. She lived in Milwaukee, and she had inherited a vast fortune. So she moved into this great big family mansion. But in the process of this, she became kind of isolated. She was in a wheelchair, and she didn't get out much, and she didn't make an effort to get out much. And she stopped doing the things that she loved. All of a sudden, she had all this money, but she didn't do the things that she liked to do. She stopped going to church, and she became more and more alone and isolated. The phone call to her nephew, she hinted that suicide was a possibility. So the nephew quickly got on a plane and came to visit his aunt, and what he noticed was that, here was this huge family mansion that he knew quite well, and he noticed that nothing had really changed in the mansion except for the fact that it had been made wheelchair friendly for his aunt. And she showed him around, and he noticed nothing much had changed. Then she also took him outside, and she showed him, one thing I really do love is the gardens. And she said, I've set up something, here where I work with my African violets. And I do these, and this is the one thing that gives me joy. But she says, I feel very much alone, and I'm not sure that this is enough for me. So the nephew had a great idea. He said, well, what if you do something differently with your African violets? And she said, like what? He said, well, what if you plant them in little pots? And what if you find out who needs a special pick-me-up? Maybe someone who's had something difficult in their life happen, and you want to just give them a little African violet. And he said, also, what if you want something to celebrate? People have things to celebrate, like the birth of a new baby, or maybe some special promotions at work or whatever. He said, why don't you work through your church and find out all those people who, one, need something to encourage them, inspire them, or to acknowledge them for some of the difficulties they're having, and also to acknowledge them for some of the wonderful things that are happening. And she said, well, okay. She said, I can do that. So they took the little cuttings. She started to take her little cuttings, and she put them in the gift basket. And then she had her handyman drive her around to give the plants to all those who either needed condolences or for those who were celebrating something special. And then she started going back to the church so she could find out who would be in need of these kinds of things. And then all of a sudden, things started to shift. She was in service. She was doing something that she loved. And over the next 20 years, she claimed that these were the best years of her life. And she began to really use her gift and her African violets to bring something new and different and special to people's lives. Her obituary read when she died, African Violet Queen dies. Thousands mourn. She touched thousands of people's lives by doing one small thing differently. It matters. If you could shift out of one old pattern towards a goal, you shift your consciousness of who you really are. I'm telling you, it takes one small thing. One small thing. Okay, what might that be? Take a walk around the block. Oh, God, it's too cold. Well, okay, take a walk around the shopping. Okay? Do one small thing, maybe every day take a walk. Or maybe every day call a family member that you want to connect with. Maybe you're going to practice meditating. You're not a meditator, but once a day you're going to sit for 10 minutes and just be quiet. Maybe looking out the window. Maybe listening to some music. Whatever it is, it's one small thing that I want you to do differently. Maybe go to bed an hour earlier and get up an hour earlier so you can have a leisurely cup of coffee before you go to work, or you're not stressed, or you're not in a hurry. Maybe start a new book. E Squared, I think, is a really good book. Maybe I'm going to read E Squared instead of my usual fiction or my usual other things that I read. I'm going to start something new, do one thing differently. Maybe I'm going to watch less TV and listen to more music. It doesn't matter what one small thing you do, as long as you do it consistently and are resolved to continue with that one small thing. A walk around the block can turn into 2 walks around the block, 3 walks around the block, and then 5 blocks, and so on. We can move one step at a time. It's brick by brick. Number 3, what you need to do is let go of those things that no longer serve you. The toughest part that we have in making resolutions is that we want to change. We want this to change, but we don't want this to change. So we start ending up doing the same sort of things, expecting this to change over here. Well, you've heard that, you know, when we keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. We call that insanity. Because what we need to do is we need to let go of that which no longer works. So if I'm going to change something in my life, one little thing, walking around the block, I have to carve out the time to do that. What can I let go of? What can you release? What no longer serves you? There's an old Dakota saying, when you discover you are riding a dead horse, the best strategy is to dismount. What is your dead horse? What are you doing that doesn't serve you? Look at your day. What's one small thing can I change that no longer serves me? And by serving you, I mean what is serving you? What is serving your heart, your soul, your essence? What is pulling you into a higher state of being? What is nourishing you? What is really pulling you up into being something more? And what is keeping you small? What is holding you back? What is your dead horse? What ways of thinking no longer support you, or what behavior is no longer caring for yourself? Notice the things that you do that don't support you and begin to let go of your attachments. Now, that may be an easy thing to say, and you may nod your head and say, yes, of course, but it's very tough. I wouldn't be surprised if all of us in some way are riding a dead horse in some aspect of our lives, because we just don't want to let go. There's a young man who'd been skiing with friends and separated from the group. He spent 3 days in sub-zero weather. We understand what that's like. He managed to survive, but when they found him, both his feet and legs were frostbitten. He had progressive gangrene in both feet. The doctors wanted to amputate immediately, and the young man said, no way, I don't want to lose my feet. A day later, the left foot began to improve, but the doctors told him the right foot would not improve that way, and they'd have to amputate. And the young man flatly refused. He said, no way, I'm not losing my foot. Well, the days progressed, and the toxins in the gangrene in his right leg were flooding his body, making him sicker and sicker, and it actually came to a point where his life was in danger. So this psychologist who wrote this article, her name was Naomi Remden, she wrote this and she said, it was a poignant scene in the man's life when the family is there, having exhausted all their efforts to convince him to have the surgery. Finally, his fiancée flew into a divine tizzy. She screamed and sobbed, and she took off her engagement ring, and she plopped it on the little toe of his right foot, a swollen black toe on his foot. And she said, there, I hate this foot. You want this foot so much, you marry it. Because you're going to have to choose. You can't have us both. Me or the foot. Well, the young man lay there in bed and saw the wedding ring around his toe, and he realized that he had wedded himself to a lower level attachment, to a foot. And he had not been attending to his commitment to life and to love and to the opportunities that lay before him. It was a breakthrough moment. The surgery was scheduled immediately, and he's now living a rich and wonderful life. The dead horse is fun. The dead foot is not. How are we attached to a lower level attachment? These are the things that we get to ask at this time of year if we are sincere about our spiritual growth, if we really want to change, if we want to make some things new and different, if we really want to experience our goals and manifestation for 2014, we have to look at what are we attached to and what are we willing to let go of. It's not so easy. Is it easy to have your foot chopped off? No, it's not. But if it's holding you back from some great adventures, from wonderful opportunities, from love and excitement and joy in your life, you're going to chop off the foot. Die or die. Now, there's a lot of people who are willing to die to keep their foot. There's a lot of people willing to go nowhere because they're riding a dead horse. So we have to really look at what we are willing to let go of as we make a change. Now, the fourth thing, perhaps one of the most important, is that no matter what we do, we have to realize that if we do it with God, if we do it with the belief, if we have the belief that we can fly, if we have the belief that we can do that which we were about to embark on, with God we can do anything. We have to plug in. We have to connect with our source and know that with our source we can do whatever it is we choose to do. That's what this book is all about, E-squared. It's in quantum physics terms, it's in scientific terms, but it states that there's a power in the universe and we can use it. And that power is always available to us. And oftentimes we are using it to try to ride a dead horse. Or we are using it to hang on to things that no longer serve us. Rather, we can open ourselves up to change if we are resolved to do so. There's one more story. A story about an old-time logger. He heard of something called a chainsaw, and he wanted to try it out. So he went to the hardware store in town and he told the sales clerk, I want to try this newfangled chainsaw. This will probably cut 20 trees a day for you, the clerk said, handing him one. So, the logger's all excited, but 2 weeks later the logger returned, and angrily he threw the chainsaw down on the counter saying, this thing won't cut more than 4, maybe 5 trees a day. I've had it. The perplexed clerk said, well, let me try. So the clerk pulled the starter and the chainsaw fired up with a roar. And the old-timer's eyes grew real wide, and he said excitedly, "What's that noise?" He hadn't fired it up. He hadn't connected to that incredible energy, that incredible power that was available to him. We know about that power. Sometimes if you don't know about it, you can't connect to it. But in New Thought, we learn about it. We know about it. We teach it. We're always immersed in it, knowing that there's this power that we can use, that God power, that with it, we can chop down 20 trees a day. Whatever it is we choose to do. So we have to open ourselves to that power and that presence, really work with it. Sometimes we end up hacking ourselves through life without ever turning on the power. You know, we can hack through, ride the dead horse, limp without a foot. We get stuck in a way of thinking that's no longer sufficient, and we lack the power and the energy to do it. So if you find, I don't know if I have the energy to make this change, well, call on the power that does. Call on the power that does. You don't have to do it alone. God is with you, God power. And when we work with the power of creation, when we have faith, when we believe with God, all things are possible. Now, related to this, I want to share one final thing with you, and that is that we never reap what we sow. Never. No matter what seed you plant, you don't harvest a seed. You harvest a crop. The acorn that gets planted in the ground doesn't become an acorn. Oh, look at what I manifested. The acorn turns into a huge oak tree. When we plant tulip bulbs in the ground, what do we expect in the spring? Not more tulip bulbs in the ground, but beautiful flowers. You never reap what you sow. You always reap something better, something greater, something grander, something majestic, something so incredible. It's far beyond what you plant. So remember, when you do one small thing, you are, in essence, doing one big thing, potentially, if you stay the course. If you are resolved to make that change. One small thing that you change in your life can change your entire life as it opens you up to possibilities. So when you say, well, I don't know what difference this is going to make, it's going to make a big difference, because what we sow is not what we reap. We reap 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times something better and greater. So no matter what the seed and no matter what you sow, it will look something entirely different. It will be miraculous what comes forth. Miraculous. So sow a thought, and you will reap a revelation. Sow a hope, and you will reap a miracle. Sow a dream, and you can reap a whole new life for yourself, and perhaps for the world. God is the creative spirit, constantly bringing forth a newness and a spirituality and a wonderful expression of life through you, if we are open to it. So think about what you want in your life. And if you are content and happy and you want no change, I'm going to say to you now, you can become more. There's an essence within you that is looking to experience more, to feel life more, to dream bigger, to go extra, to do whatever it may be that you are called to do. So stop riding the dead horse and open up to, I'm going to do one small thing differently today. One small thing. And I'm going to do it every day. And as I make that change, I'm going to continue to be persistent and open myself to the miracles of God and know that whatever small thing I do can create something bigger in my life. So start with one resolution. Do one small thing differently. Become aware of your attachments and be willing to let them go. And then turn on the song. Connect with the power. And become one with God. All things are possible. So it is.
Songs that you sing, you have to take time out to really listen to the words yourself as a singer. It's been a trying week for me, and I've realized that I'm fried. we had an 11-year-old that we spent Christmas in the hospital who had a severe case of pneumonia, and he's fine now, but after 5 days in the hospital, boy, I'm fried. So this song is very appropriate for me. So I need your help in helping me clap your hands like this. Everybody needs a change, a chance to take time. Sometimes I'm in pain, accepting the things that I don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, people. They'll be standing on the side when you check it out. They say your start of life's a drag, and that you must go other places. But just don't you feel too bad when you get fooled by the smiling faces. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, people. Spirit is standing in the side to check it out. Everybody needs a change, a chance to check out the new. But you're the only one to see the changes you take yourself through. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, people. Spirit is standing in the side to check it out. thing.